Welcome to Product Academy Tough Stuff, the podcast where we cut through the noise and get straight to the toughest challenges in product management. I'm Tanya Lau.
And I'm Francesca Cortesi.
In each episode, we tackle one tough question. No fluff, no filler. Just candid insights from seasoned product leaders.
Our guests deliver actionable, real-world answers. Whether you're an experienced product leader or just stepping into the product world, this is your go-to podcast for sharp, tested advice, condensed for your busy schedule.
One tough challenge, practical insights, short and real.
Let's dive in.
Welcome to today's Tough Stuff episode. And we have one topic that I think is extremely interesting, and it's about confidence. And who doesn't want to be confident? I definitely want to, but sometimes it's like, what does that even mean? And can I become confident, or am I born confident? I mean, those things sometimes I go back and forth in my mind. And to help us unpack this, we have with us Parveen Downer. And what I really, really like about her is that she's not one thing, she's not one label, but she's many things. She's a fashion designer, she's a career coach, and she is a PM instructor. And she has done many more things of these three things. And one thing that actually she found is that confidence, it's the common trait to get wherever you want in whichever career you want to pursue. So I'm super excited to have her on the podcast today to help us unpack this super tough question. Welcome, Parveen.
Thanks very much for having me.
So I'll start there maybe. What is confidence, and can I build up confidence, or am I born with it?
Well, it'd be pretty sad if I said, no, you can't build it. There'd be no point.
And the podcast.
And finished. All right. So I truly believe, and so do lots of experts and research, that confidence is not a trait. It is a skill. You can build it like any other skill with public speaking, or maybe you're trying to build muscle, or maybe you're trying to learn how to run. Those are all skills that you can learn. And so a lot of times, when I speak to people about confidence, first of all, it feels like a very elusive thing. Like, how do you quantify it? How do you tangibly talk about it? But the best definition that I've read was by Mark Manson, and it's around how confidence is a state of mind, and it's a feeling that you lack nothing. And I think that says something deeper than just what is the act of confidence. It's actually the feeling of confidence. So the feeling that you lack nothing, that you have everything that you need for now and for the future. And if you think about that mindset, or about that inherent how you feel, it helps you take better action. And when I say better, I mean you're not overthinking. You're not second guessing yourself, your thoughts, your actions. You're just doing what feels right and authentic to you. And so that's why I really gravitate to that particular definition, because I think it wraps so much into it in such a small poetic point. There is actually a whole article, which I'll send you a link for to share with the readers, because it's a really fascinating dissection of what is confidence. And more than anything, it's about the mindset and a feeling.
Can I ask something? Because that is really, you said, you lack nothing. There is a point about taking the step. So, if you feel that you are in that place that you can do it, so you lack nothing, that is where you take the step. And there was otherwise you get I don't know, I was thinking when you are there, then is when you feel you're courageous, maybe, or maybe don't naive. That's the other side of it. That you have in your head, I have all I need, even though maybe when you get a little bit wiser, you didn't have all you needed, but at that specific point you thought you did, and in that moment you got the courage to take the step. So that is the confidence. But if I read well, what you said in that quote, or at least that's what resonated with me in that quote.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think you're not going to feel courageous all the time, and you're not going to feel like you lack nothing all the time. In fact, it's probably pretty rare. And one of the things I'm so passionate about this topic is to try to teach people how to then access that confidence and build upon it? How do you build that skill if you don't always feel confident, or you feel like you're lacking so much? Oh, I lack the knowledge to speak up in this meeting. I lack the ability to speak up to my manager and say, I want a promotion, or I lack the ability to put together a sound argument to argue with that one family member that's always argumentative, because they just freeze in the moment. And one of the things like I said, I'm so passionate about is teaching people how to build that confidence skill. So you were mentioning how what resonated with you in the quote. And I think you had said people will take action when they feel courageous or feel confident. But I said sometimes, and I said that for a reason, because if you think about, I wish I had a whiteboard now. If you think about confidence.
Imagine a whiteboard in front
Imagine
of you.
a whiteboard. Okay. So we're going to have a loop, and it has 3 different points. So first we have action. So we take action, and that builds our confidence. And in turn, we prove to ourselves we are competent. Okay. And then as we feel more competent about a skill or something we're doing, we'll take more action, maybe bigger action, maybe bolder action, and we'll feel more confident. And this loop just keeps building and building. That's how you build your confidence. But where do you start if you don't feel any of those? So I don't feel confident. Oh, my inner critic inside is definitely questioning my competence, even though perhaps you probably are. So I take no action. So where do you enter in that loop? And my view is you enter, in science as well, is you take action before you feel confident, even before you feel 100% competent. You just have to do something, and it can be small. And you can take that small action even before you feel ready. So, for example, I'm moving into the entrepreneurial world, and I have never owned a business, but I have worked in startups. So I've kind of seen how it's done, but I've never been the founder or the business owner myself. I was like, who has the audacity to just do that? I mean, plenty of people do it, right? And what is the number one advice that comes up time and time again is just start. Just start, take some action, and you'll figure it out as you go along. And I think that's true of building confidence as a skill. And I've got about 11 different ways to do that. I built a whole group coaching program around this because I really am so passionate about people finding their own confident voice. It doesn't have to be an obnoxious Canadian one like me. It can be their own version of it. It can be quiet. It doesn't have to be loud and shouty. And for me, I think so many brilliant people and so many brilliant ideas get overlooked because the people who have those ideas are not confident to bring them forward. And how much more ahead would we be and advanced would we be, both in companies, but also in the entrepreneurial world, and people bringing their ideas to life if they had the confidence to just start and to talk about it. And so that's one reason I'm so passionate about this topic. It's not just for myself, but also I just want more amazing, brilliant, confident people in the world. And if I can help build that, great.
Oh, I love that. And one thing that really deeply resonates with me, I mean, finding that confidence of taking that step, right? When I'm hearing if we could get more people to take that step, we'll have more ideas, or we'll have more things to discuss, or we'll have more greatness, maybe a new company in this world, or a new, a new painting, or a new poem, or a new song, or whatever that might be. But one thing that clicked with me, and I don't know if I misinterpreted what you said, because you said that confidence is a skill. And then you want to create that reinforcing loop. When you take the action, you kind of prove yourself that you can do it. And when you prove yourself that you can do it, then, you have more kind of become bigger a little bit, take more space, and then you can take a bigger step, etc. But is the skill of confidence then the skill of taking the first step?
That's a really good way to frame it. I guess, what do you mean by the first step? Because sometimes that first step lives in your head. Sometimes it lives out loud. What do you mean by first step?
I'm just thinking, let's take a maybe work example, right? You are in these big meetings when you have what do I know, leaders or C-levels or investors or whomever, someone with power in there, whatever power means in your context. And then you are supposed to present something, and then you do, and maybe you have prepared for it, so you feel confident doing it. But then you get overpowered by others. Maybe there are some that have a bigger voice, or they're more prone of presenting their idea in a specific way. You don't, and then you what you lack in that specific moment, which happened to me sometimes in my career, is the confidence on saying, guys, girls, like, wait a minute, like, we are derailing here, like, we should talk about this and we should not talk about that. Like, the confidence to speak up and to present a different viewpoint than the one in the room, for example. That, I think it's a matter of confidence. When I think that would be like one of the steps, right? How do I take that step, is specifically, if that is the skill that I need to create more confidence next time I'm in the same room?
Yeah, that's it sounds like it could be a small question, but actually I would say it's quite
a
a long
huge one.
answer. It's a multifaceted answer, and I'll tell you why. Because what I've learned in my own sort of meta research of confidence research, and also running the Quietly Confident Club and seeing the changes in people over the course of 3 months, um, what I would say is that it's not just one thing that's going to help you take that step. You need to think about a number of different factors. So firstly, what is your mind telling you? What is that inner critic in your head saying, no, you shouldn't speak up, or no, you don't know enough? Maybe it's not there. Amazing. Okay, you can take that off your list. But if it is there, how do you overcome it? How do you prepare, knowing that in those moments when you're going to not be able to access your confidence as easily, how do you take action despite that voice in your head? There's also the physical feelings. Maybe it feels like there's a frog caught in your throat, you've got butterflies in your stomach, or your mouth dries up. How do you actually speak when your voice instrument is failing you? Or there's another element that I don't think is talked about nearly enough in the coaching world, and that's intersectionality. How do all of the different facets of your life, where you're from, where you grew up, what languages you speak, what you look like, what privileges you have and have not had, how that informs how you move through the world and how people perceive you as well. All of these things, there's just so many factors into what goes into that moment of how do I take action. And so if we break it down into each of those buckets, and I mean, there's far more than that, but we only have 20 minutes, so I'll keep it to there. So firstly, the mindset. Well, you can prepare for your mindset if you can do some awareness and analysis exercises beforehand on your own, with a coach, whatever works, with a friend. And you think, actually, in the moment where I can anticipate this situation is going to happen, what do I do? How do I actually act? And what is going through my head? So if you're open to it, I'd love to know what was going through your head in that moment, when you were like, oh, I can't speak up. Do you remember what was going through your head?
I mean, it was, to be fair, it was a while ago. I think one of the bigger obstacles for me, it was like how am I perceived? If I'm the only one who is here, who says, like, everyone says go right, and I'm like, yeah, but if we go right, this happen and we consider to go left. Like, how will I be perceived? How is like speaking not against, but providing another angle is in this company, for example? It's like, it's also a matter of like company culture. And this to me happened more when I was stepping into either a new company or a new room where there were other kind of unwritten rules. And I didn't know the unwritten rules. So the main thing was like, how am I going to be perceived? And then I definitely recognize what you said about the physical, like how do your body react? To me, is like, I feel a flush in my cheeks. And I'm like, if I'm gonna look red, everyone will see that I am not, like, I say something against them and then I'm all red. How do you think they're gonna look at me? Maybe better if I just shut up.
Yeah, look, can I just take a quick pause? Can you can we just appreciate how much information is going through our heads at that moment? I mean, I can totally relate to that, where you freeze and it's just like your brain becomes a supercomputer of why you're not good enough. It does all these calculations about how you're going to be perceived and how like red your face is, what your temperature is, what the tone of your voice, like all of these things we can think through really, really quick. So what we want to do is actually prepare ahead of time. When we know we're going to feel that way, what is a different reframe we could have in our mind of like, actually, no, my voice is valid and I have lots of data to back up what I've said or enough experience to know what I'm talking about. And if we try to flip our mind, our reframe or that mindset to that by default of I deserve to be here, my voice should be heard, even if my face is red, it's still a valid point, then you can start to take action. And that comes with time, of course. But it's trying to flip that switch in your head of like, no, you're not good enough to, I'm not sure, but I'm going to say it anyway. Or I am sure and I deserve to be here and my voice should say that. So you're training your brain to have, even if that pesky inner critic, that voice in your head that's being like, no, 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 no. There's another voice that's like, actually, yes, it's fine, carry on. But that needs to accompany with some physical manifestations as well. So you said how you maybe tensed up in that moment and your cheeks go red, and then you're thinking about how your cheeks are going red. And so how can we learn to feel confident? What does that feel like in our bodies more often? And one of my absolute favorite things to do with people, and actually for myself, it's a practice I do pretty much every week, is I build a playlist of songs that make me feel incredibly confident. Sometimes you hear a song and it's just like nothing can stop you. Maybe you're walking a bit taller. Maybe you feel like a model on a runway, whatever it is, like you just feel incredible. And for no other reason than it's a great song and there's maybe nothing in particular going on in your life that made you feel that way. It was just the sound of the music. And build a playlist of songs that make you feel that way. So I've actually got one. I'll share it with you to share with the listeners as well as the starting point. Mine's very like happy, upbeat pop. And some of them have very empowering messages and some of them just have a really great beat. But practicing what confidence feels like over and over again can really help you in those moments be like, oh no, this is not my confident self. This is what my confident self feels like because you've practiced it. So what I suggest is that not only do you build this playlist and just listen to it in and around your house, have a little dance around, whatever works, but listen to it in public. So I live in London and I commute on the train, on the tube, and there's so many people around and it's very public. But no one else is really paying attention to me as much as I'm paying attention to me. And so I can do whatever I want. If people see me being confident, maybe it'll inspire them to do it, or maybe they're just in their own head thinking about what to make for dinner or that stressful thing at work, and they won't think about it again. So practicing what it feels like to feel confident in public is, again, another way to exercise that confidence muscle so that in those moments when you feel like you're freezing, you're like, actually, no, this is what it feels like for me to feel confident, and then proceed to go and do your meeting, presentation, whatever it is. And yeah, you can use it a bit like a hype playlist before you go into that thing that's going to cause your nerves to be quite high. You can counteract it with some mindset exercises and then also your like how you feel with your confidence playlist.
Thanks for sharing the idea of the playlist. I would love to hear it, and I think it's really a relatable feeling when sometimes if you have like those songs that play in your head and just a little bit extra. You feel like just a little bit extra. One thing that I would do is to, and I mean, that's so personal, right? But to me, a lot is like cleaning up the thoughts in my head. So what I do before, like, stepping in a big meeting or stepping on a big stage or whatever I will be doing, I meditate just to have my head empty. So that is like, there is a combination of two things that you said. One is preparation, so for example, when I would go and do a presentation, like I know I prepared, or when I do a meeting, I know I've done my homework. It's not that I'm gonna just wake up one day and go and have a presentation in front of 600 people, and nobody does that, or maybe someone do, but not me. And then the thing stopping me is maybe the thoughts in my head. So I clean my head in the way that I want to. and then it helps me. It's not perfect because I still feel sometimes my red cheeks when I do these things. But I mean, as you said, like step after step, it becomes easier. And that's also two things that I've heard you saying. I mean, one thing is that confidence is a skill, but it's also a feeling. So how do you find your feeling of confidence? That's like one thing. And the other thing that you said, or at least that I heard when you talked about like recognizing yourself, your limiting belief. So knowing yourself and recognizing what's going on in your head, in your body, maybe with a certain person that you have more friction or less friction with, whatever, that blocks you building that confidence. So it's a mix, and I mean, you can correct me if I picked up things in not a correct way, but it's a mix of preparation, knowing yourself, and knowing how it feels like.
Absolutely. I think you've hit the nail on the head. No corrections needed. I think there's the biggest misconception, I would say, other than confidence is something you're born with or not. That's not true. It is a skill, you can build it. But is that once you reach your 100% confident self, you have no more work to do and you will just stay there. And some people just are always there. And that's just not the truth. It dips, it builds. It's something that you can access sometimes, and sometimes it feels harder. But the point that I try to teach in my coaching, both individually in workshops and in the group coaching stuff, is that it's about consistency. Even if you just take one small step, like listen to your confidence playlist in the morning for 10 minutes before you get to work. Or one thing we talk about as well is gratitude practice. You don't have to make it overly complicated. Like I myself am not a big journaler. I don't like writing. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I can recite to myself in the morning 3 things that I'm grateful for. And it's actually on my alarm that wakes me up. Like, what are you grateful for? I'm like, oh yeah, I can just think that to myself. And again, that's another way to help, if we go back to that first definition, to help feel like you don't lack anything is, oh, actually, there's so much I do have that I am grateful for. The house that I live in, the people I get to work with, my creative sensibilities, whatever it is. And so it's a combination of those things. You're absolutely right. But what I would add to that is it's being consistent, even if it's small. Do something that builds your confidence every day. And it doesn't have to be big.
That I love that, like the small steps. And I mean, definitely the playlist is a really concrete one. I was thinking, like, if we put this more on the context of work, is there any other specific example of small thing one can do to train that confidence muscle that you want to share with us?
Yeah, one of the things we haven't talked about is rejection therapy. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No.
There was
Sounds terrifying. I was like, okay, should I sit there and have someone rejecting me? What is that?
In a controlled way, and maybe unbeknownst to the person you're asking. Yes. So there's this guy named Jia Jiang, and he did this wonderful TED Talk called 100 Days of Rejection. And he's got a whole website and actually an assessment about like how averse are you to being rejected, and just how that plays into confidence. I've seen it for myself and for my clients as well. So the premise is you find some scenario, big or small, start small, and you're going to intentionally seek a rejection. So at work, for
Terrifying.
example, it's terrifying, but the person you're asking doesn't know that you know you're expecting to get a rejection. In fact,
Okay.
what you're trying to prove to yourself is that you got the rejection and actually you were fine. Again, you're training yourself to reset after there's that moment of rejection. Again, another way to build a different facet of your confidence muscle. So, for example, at work, I very distinctly remember as a product manager, I had a delivery team. And, I constantly ask, oh, can you deliver more? This is really important. Why is this timeline so long? And I just started dropping, not even hints. I was just really blatant about it. I was like, well, if you give me a whole other delivery team, I could help. But really, realistically, this is the best we can do with what we have. And I knew they were going to say no. Like, who's just going to give you a whole nother delivery team of engineers?
Nobody, unfortunately.
No
Yeah.
one. Exactly. So I knew that. But yet I still asked. I still did it, and it happened about 3 different times in 3 different meetings with 3 different sets of stakeholders, including in one of them was the founders. And by the fourth time that I said it, they're like, you know what? I think you're right. I think we actually do need a team. And so, yes, it meant more work for me. But sometimes that rejection can turn into yes, but actually, it was a way for me to illustrate in the moment that there's just too much work and not enough people to do the work. And I knew that it was going to get a no, and I intentionally knew that, and I said it anyways. And I mean, it doesn't always end up that you do get what you want, but it can start small. So one of the suggestions that they have on the website is like ask for a free coffee if you go and buy your coffee at a coffee
Oh,
shop. You know, why would they say yes? And if they're like, why? You're like, but just cause. And they say no, it's like, that's fine. I was gonna pay anyways. It's worth trying. But the point is, notice what happens in your body beforehand. Have you set your mindset up to be like, yes, they're going to say no, but that's okay. I'm not going to get hurt because of that. And then afterwards, reflect on how do you feel about being rejected and why, and kind of break down what that feeling is and how to reset faster. When I say reset, I mean it's like, okay, well, I got to know it didn't feel great, but you know, I can still do my job. I still got my coffee. You know, I can still carry on with whatever the thing I'm doing with, and, you know, the world didn't end. So it's about training your mind to realize that actually just because you got rejected doesn't mean the world ended. And maybe it feels like that in the moment, especially if it's something big, but the more you can expose yourself to that, the faster you can reset in those moments and the more action you're going to be willing to take.
yeah, and that's I feel like I really want to go and look at that TED talk now, because what I was reflecting on, it was like it depends a little bit, and definitely it's a muscle, and you should start small, etc., etc. But the rejection, at least in my experience, depends so much on your emotional attachment, in lack of better words, to it. Like, you know, if I go out and ask for a free coffee, I kind of like, you know, I'm doing like a silly thing, and, you know, like I know I'm gonna be rejected, and I mean, maybe I wouldn't do it in the coffee shop that I go every day, or maybe I would, I don't know. But you take down like, it's like you're not expecting a yes, and if you get a yes, it's the cherry on top of the cake. That's in both example, both with the coffee or with the team. You're saying you need a team, and you get a no, 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 and then if you get a yes, yay, right? But I mean, there are some cases, and there is where I reacted, is terrifying with the rejection. It's more like I was thinking in those cases where you have put a lot of work into something and you present something, let's say, again, in a product management context, you present a strategy, or you do a pitch or something that you really worked and put a lot of effort and involved a lot of people, and then you're going to be rejected. And there, I think it goes more towards your self-worth in a whole other way than, you know, saying no to a delivery team that, you know, I can make a proposal, but it's nothing attached to my, you know, I flag the risk, I said the gain, but if we don't get it, fine, versus, you know, I put a lot of effort and my self-worth. Going back to, maybe that's the whole point of get back to confidence, but I have, yeah, I should check that TED talk, but my first thought was like, oh my God, that would be like, not destroying me, because obviously you bounce back, but it would take a lot of time to build back that confidence.
Yeah. I mean, don't start there is my first piece. It's way smaller than that. Like maybe you propose a design you know is absolutely preposterous and you know it's bad, but you know it's not helpful, but you're practicing getting the no. And then maybe you go into a meeting with, I don't know, your engineers, if you're in a stand-up, and you ask them to explain something to you, and then you suggest something completely outlandish, knowing very well, like for me, I'm not the most technical person. I understand a lot of the principles, but you know, let's just for fun see where that conversation goes, right? Keep it low stakes to start with. So you're training for when inevitably you do get a rejection, you can bounce back and deal with it in a better way, in a way that's in a quicker way, sorry, I should say. The other thing I would say around how you're perceived, like in that moment, this is where the mindset and reframe work comes in. So it's not just one thing is going to help you be more confident. It's a combination of all of these. So for example, your self-worth and tying that to your work, which is something a lot of people do. I know it's something I certainly did, especially when I went self-employed. It's like, oh, well, I'm not earning a certain amount of money, so I must not be very good at what I do. But that's not the case. I have lots of incredible skills that I can put forth, and maybe I'm just not using them in a paid capacity right now, but I will in the future. And so you see where the mindset reframe comes in, as well as the actual physical feelings of rejection, the planning and prep beforehand. There's not just one thing that's going to get you there. It's a combination.
Challenge accepted.
I love it.
I'll report back. I will try today the coffee thing. You never know.
Okay.
Might made my day with a free coffee. Like, why? I was even thinking when you said, oh, could I get a free coffee? And I would be like, what? It's like, oh, I'm
Why?
trying this thing of confidence. Maybe they will give it to me. I don't know. We'll see.
Or maybe they'll give you a discount and not for free. Or maybe they'll like, oh, well, if you go wash some dishes, you can have a free coffee. And if you've got the time and don't want to pay with your time, fine.
Exactly.
There's so many
Why
different
not?
scenarios that this could happen. It's being open to what could happen.
But I mean, time is running so fast. But I was just thinking, like, if I play back some of the things that I've heard that resonated with me, and thanks Parveen for giving us really concrete things to do. The most important lesson maybe here is that confidence is a muscle or is a skill. And you can train it, and you can start training by doing small things, as having your confidence playlist, for example, or be bold and go and ask for free coffee and see if you get rejected or anything like that. But also like prepare, like kind of like start knowing yourself, preparing yourself, know what is your mental reaction, your physical reaction, and try to play it out before you put yourself in those situations, so you can feel that you are better handling them, like more confident in handling them when they arise. Is there anything that I missed, or anything that you want to add to close up this episode?
I think you've pretty much covered it. I would just reinforce that the consistency is the most important part. You could do just one of those things, but do it consistently. And that's when you start to see the changes. Don't try and do everything at once. It's why the way I built my Quietly Confident Club is every week we have a different, I call them confidence experiment. So we do some different facet of it. We check in about it, spend some time, debrief, and then move on to the next thing. And then we put it all together at the end. So it's more about consistency. Just keep doing even the small things, and that should move the needle for you in the long run.
I love it. And we can maybe, link the club also, like on the show notes, if someone wants to join. It sounds like a really, really nice club where you challenge each other.
Yeah, a really nice group of people, at least there. Our first one is, so we're actually just finishing the first slot on Wednesday, so 2 days from now when we're recording. And yeah, new one's opening in January next year, 2026. So yeah, we'd love to have people along.
Yeah, so check the link and check the club, and remember to do one small thing, if not every day, every other day maybe, so you get your confidence back. Thank you, Parveen, for sharing your wisdom with us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Product Academy Tough Stuff.
We hope today's tough question gave you practical, actionable insights.
If you enjoyed the episode, do us a favor and leave a rating or review. It will help us grow the podcast and make future episodes even better.
Got a question for us? Send an email to toughstuff@productacademy.ch and ask away. We read any submission and might answer yours in a later episode.
Thank you again for listening. We'll see you next time with another tough challenge to tackle.
Until then, take care.